October 14th, 2023. Iron Wolf MMA Gym, Austin, Texas. Victoria Sterling stepped into the testosterone-fueled world of professional mixed martial arts training at 2 p.m. sharp. At 38, with designer workout clothes and perfectly manicured nails, she looked completely out of place among the scarred fighters surrounding the octagon. The gym fell momentarily quiet as heads turned to assess the newcomer. To the assembled fighters, she was obviously another rich housewife seeking a trendy workout, someone who'd quit after her first real contact. They'd seen her type before, wealthy women treating MMA like hot yoga, unprepared for combat sport's brutal reality. What they didn't know was that Victoria had been secretly training in martial arts for over 20 years. Behind her socialite facade lay someone who dedicated her life to mastering deadly fighting techniques. Her journey began not in luxury, but desperation, a teenage girl learning to fight for survival. "Another soccer mom playing tough," whispered Jake Martinez, a local amateur fighter, loud enough for Victoria to hear. Others snickered, making jokes about her designer gear and speculating how quickly she'd run back to her country club. Even Marcus "Tank" Rodriguez, the gym owner, seemed skeptical despite accepting her substantial advance payment. Victoria heard every comment but remained focused. She'd faced worse than gym bullies and understood that respect here wasn't bought. It was earned through blood, sweat, and proving yourself against anyone stepping into that cage. As she laced up her gloves, Victoria knew everything she'd endured. Every technique mastered, every sacrifice made was about to be tested. The rich girl was ready to show them what real fighting looked like. But first, she had to earn the right to be taken seriously in their world. Victoria's story began in Dallas's affluent suburbs, growing up as the only child of successful investment banker parents. Their Victorian mansion promised endless privilege, but behind the upper-class facade lurked darkness that would fundamentally shape Victoria's relationship with violence. Her father, William Sterling, was a respected financial professional by day, but a violent alcoholic behind closed doors. His abuse began when Victoria was 12, escalating from verbal intimidation to physical violence that left her with broken ribs, black eyes, and the profound understanding that the world wasn't safe for those who couldn't defend themselves. Her mother, Catherine, was too terrified and financially dependent to intervene. The family's wealth provided perfect camouflage for domestic horror. Neighbors saw only success, while teachers remained oblivious to the terror defining Victoria's adolescence. The turning point came at 16, when her father's violence nearly killed her. After hospitalization with concussion and internal bleeding, Victoria made a life-defining decision. She would never again be helpless against violence. She would learn to fight back with every available technique. Her first martial arts class was at a local karate dojo, where she discovered natural athleticism and supernatural ability to learn complex fighting techniques. More importantly, training provided an outlet for rage and helplessness that had consumed her for years. Every punch and kick was a step toward reclaiming her power. Victoria's parents assumed her martial arts interest was a teenage phase that would pass. They had no idea their daughter was systematically acquiring skills to defend herself against anyone who might harm her. She trained 6 days weekly, often for hours, driven by helplessness memories that fueled her determination to become unstoppable. By 18, Victoria had earned black belts in 3 martial arts and begun training in aggressive systems like Krav Maga and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Victoria's Stanford years combined academic excellence with continued martial arts training. While classmates focused on parties, Victoria spent free time at local MMA gyms, learning from fighters who taught her that real combat was far more brutal than traditional martial arts had prepared her for. Her computer science studies suited her analytical mind perfectly. Victoria quickly distinguished herself, solving complex technical problems with the same systematic approach she applied to fighting training. She developed software applications during junior year that caught Silicon Valley investors' attention, leading to her first startup before graduation. The contrast between her lives was stark. By day, Victoria was the brilliant entrepreneur pitching technology solutions to venture capitalists. By night, she rolled on mats with seasoned fighters, learning submission techniques and ground and pound strategies for real combat. Her first company, a data analytics platform for e-commerce, sold for $47 million when Victoria was 24. The sudden wealth provided financial independence and freedom to pursue martial arts with intensity few amateurs could afford. She hired private instructors, traveled to train with world champions, and built a home training facility rivaling professional gyms. Victoria's second startup, focusing on cybersecurity solutions, proved even more successful. The company went public when she was 28, making her worth over $200 million and establishing her as one of the youngest female tech billionaires. The financial press celebrated her as a role model, completely unaware of her secret fighting life. Her wealth allowed training with the world's best instructors. She spent summers with Olympic wrestlers in Russia, winters learning Muay Thai in Thailand, and spring breaks studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with legendary masters in Brazil. Each experience added new fighting dimensions while reinforcing her belief that money meant nothing without the power to protect yourself. Despite success, Victoria maintained the grueling training schedule defining her life since adolescence. Understanding that wealth could disappear overnight, but fighting skills were permanent. While the tech world knew Victoria Sterling as a brilliant entrepreneur, the underground fighting community knew her as V. For over a decade, she'd trained at elite MMA gyms under assumed identity, wearing plain clothes and paying cash to avoid recognition. Her wealth remained secret as she learned from the world's most dangerous fighters. Her private training facility, hidden in a converted warehouse outside Austin, was equipped with everything a professional fighter needed: Olympic-quality wrestling mats, heavy bags, speed bags, and a regulation octagon where she sparred with hired partners sworn to secrecy about her identity. The facility operated like a military black site. Victoria's training regimen exceeded most professionals. She woke at 4:30 a.m. for conditioning, followed by technical striking, grappling, and submissions training. Afternoons meant sparring with different partners, specializing in various fighting styles. Evenings included strength training, flexibility work, and mental preparation techniques from sports psychologists. Her sparring partners were carefully selected retired professional fighters who needed the substantial payments Victoria offered for discretion and expertise. Men like Jake the Snake Morrison, a former UFC contender whose career ended due to injuries, provided high-level training money couldn't normally buy. They taught not just techniques, but psychological warfare and strategic thinking, separating elite fighters from talented amateurs. Victoria's learning approach was methodical and comprehensive. She studied every major fight video, analyzed champions' techniques, and incorporated elements from various martial arts into her unique fighting style. Her data analysis background proved invaluable in identifying patterns and weaknesses less systematic fighters might miss. The most challenging aspect was learning to fight larger, stronger men. Victoria stood 5'6" and weighed 135 pounds, meaning she'd almost always face significant size disadvantages. She compensated by developing exceptional speed, technique, and human anatomy understanding that allowed targeting pressure points and vulnerable areas with surgical precision. Her submission game became particularly dangerous as she learned using opponents' size and strength against them. Victoria's decision to join Iron Wolf MMA came after years of isolated training. Despite incredible skills and preparation, she'd never tested herself against fighters who didn't know her abilities or hold back because they were paid to train with her. She needed to know if she could really fight. Iron Wolf was deliberately chosen for its reputation as Austin's toughest gym. The facility attracted serious fighters, including current and former professionals who wouldn't be impressed by money or intimidated by lawyers. If Victoria could earn respect here, she could earn it anywhere. Her first day began with paperwork and expected skeptical reception. The gym's atmosphere was unmistakably hostile to outsiders, particularly wealthy ones who might be slumming in their world. Victoria signed liability waivers while listening to whispered comments about rich bitches and yoga mums, thinking they could handle real fighting. Marcus "Tank" Rodriguez, the owner and former heavyweight contender, made clear Victoria's money didn't buy special treatment. "This isn't a fitness club," he warned during their initial meeting. "People get hurt here. If you can't handle that, there's a Pilates studio down the street." Victoria's response was simple: "I'm here to learn. Just treat me like everyone else." Rodriguez was skeptical, but agreed to let her train, assuming she'd quit within a week once experiencing real contact. Her first training session was deliberately designed to test her commitment. Rodriguez assigned her to work with Jenny "Bulldog" Martinez, a female bantamweight known for aggressive style and lack of patience with beginners. Martinez had been instructed to see what the rich girl is made of. The session began with basic striking drills, and Victoria immediately demonstrated far more skill than anyone expected. Her technique was flawless, combinations crisp, and footwork showed years of dedicated training. Martinez, prepared to embarrass an amateur, found herself working with someone who clearly understood combat fundamentals. By session's end, whispered comments changed from mockery to curiosity. Victoria's first 2 weeks at Iron Wolf were a careful dance of skill demonstration and strategic restraint. She participated in all training sessions with quiet professionalism, gradually revealing abilities without showing their full extent. Other fighters began respecting her work ethic and technical skills, but most still viewed her as a serious amateur rather than truly dangerous. Her breakthrough moment came during a grappling session with Tommy "the Crusher" Williams, a 200-pound amateur specializing in ground and pound techniques. Williams volunteered to roll with Victoria, partly from genuine training interest, and partly to test whether the rich girl could handle pressure from a larger, stronger opponent. The session began typically with Williams using size advantage to establish dominant positions. However, Victoria's response demonstrated years of technical training preparing her for exactly this scenario. Instead of matching his strength, she used precise technique and leverage to escape control and establish dominant positions of her own. Within minutes, Victoria demonstrated submission techniques that impressed even the gym's most experienced grapplers. Her transitions were smooth and efficient, submissions technically perfect, and her ability to control larger opponents showed skill levels few amateurs ever achieved. Williams found himself tapping repeatedly to submissions he hadn't seen coming. Word of Victoria's grappling skills spread quickly, leading to requests from other fighters wanting to test themselves against her. Each session revealed new ability dimensions, from defensive striking, making her nearly impossible to hit cleanly, to conditioning, allowing her to maintain high intensity for extended periods. Marcus Rodriguez began realizing he'd seriously underestimated his new student. Victoria's technique was professional level, tactical awareness exceptional, and physical conditioning superior to most gym fighters. More importantly, she demonstrated mental toughness and emotional control, separating elite fighters from talented amateurs. The gym's atmosphere shifted as fighters recognized Victoria belonged among them, not because of money, but abilities. However, this respect came with new challenges as experienced fighters tested her with increasingly aggressive sessions designed to see if she could handle real pressure. November 18th, 2023. Iron Wolf MMA's atmosphere had grown tense as word spread that Derek, the Destroyer Blackstone, would visit the gym. Blackstone was a legitimate professional fighter with a 12-3 record who'd competed in major organizations and was known for aggressive style and lack of respect for amateur fighters. Blackstone's visit was arranged by his manager, scouting training facilities while Derek prepared for his next fight. The 6'2", 185-pound striker was between camps and looking for sparring partners to help prepare for his upcoming bout. Iron Wolf's reputation for tough training had attracted his attention. From a rival, Blackstone's attitude made clear he viewed the gym's fighters as beneath his level. He dismissed the facility's equipment as amateur hour and made disparaging comments about local fighters' skill levels. His arrogance was particularly evident when Marcus Rodriguez introduced him to regular training partners. Victoria was working pad techniques with Jenny Martinez when Blackstone noticed her. His reaction was immediate and predictably dismissive. "What's the soccer mom doing here? Don't tell me you let rich housewives play fighter in this place." His comment drew uncomfortable laughter from some fighters who'd recently begun respecting Victoria's skills. Rodriguez attempted diffusing tension by explaining Victoria was a serious student who'd earned her place through skill and dedication. Blackstone's response was suggesting he could show her what real fighting looks like if she was interested in learning from a professional. Victoria's response was characteristically calm. "I'm always interested in learning from more experienced fighters." Her polite acceptance seemed to confirm Blackstone's assumption that she was another amateur who didn't understand what she was getting into. The impromptu sparring session was scheduled for the following day, giving Blackstone time to spread word throughout Austin's MMA community that he'd be teaching lessons to a wealthy amateur. Several local fighters and coaches arrived to watch what they expected would be a one-sided demonstration of professional versus amateur skills. Victoria spent that evening in her usual preparation routine, but those knowing her well would have noticed subtle changes in her demeanor. November 19th, 2023, 3:00 p.m. Iron Wolf MMA was packed with fighters, coaches, and MMA enthusiasts who'd come to watch Derek the Destroyer Blackstone give a lesson to the wealthy amateur. Betting had reached several $1,000s, with odds heavily favoring Blackstone to finish Victoria within the first round. Victoria arrived in her usual understated workout gear, showing no nervousness despite the hostile atmosphere. She warmed up methodically while Blackstone held court with supporters, talking about how he'd teach respect to the rich girl who'd gotten too big for her britches. Rules were simple: 3-minute rounds with light sparring that could escalate to full contact if both fighters agreed. Blackstone made clear he intended to escalate immediately, claiming, "Real fighters don't play patty cake." Victoria simply nodded agreement, maintaining calm demeanor that had characterized her training. As they entered the octagon, the size difference was stark. Blackstone stood 6 inches taller and outweighed Victoria by 50 pounds, with muscular build and confident swagger of someone who'd never lost to an amateur. Victoria looked small by comparison, but those who'd trained with her noticed subtle posture and expression changes, indicating she was shifting into combat mode. Opening seconds followed expected script. Blackstone came forward aggressively, throwing combinations designed to overwhelm Victoria with power and speed. However, his attacks met only air, as Victoria's footwork and defensive positioning made her virtually untouchable. Her movement was fluid and economical, conserving energy while making Blackstone miss by inches. What happened next shocked everyone. As Blackstone committed to a powerful right hook, Victoria stepped inside his guard with lightning speed, caught his extended arm, and executed a perfect arm drag, sending him stumbling forward off balance. Before he could recover, she'd taken his back and locked in a rear naked choke with technical precision that would have impressed championship-level grapplers. At 9 seconds, Derek the Destroyer Blackstone tapped frantically against Victoria's forearm, signaling submission to a fighter he dismissed as an amateur just minutes earlier. The gym fell silent as Victoria released the choke immediately and helped her opponent to his feet. The silence following Victoria's submission lasted only seconds before erupting into chaos. Fighters who'd witnessed the 9-second destruction of a professional competitor struggled to process what they'd seen. The wealthy amateur they'd tolerated for weeks had just demonstrated fighting skills, exceeding most professionals. Blackstone's reaction was perhaps most telling. The arrogant professional who'd entered expecting easy victory sat quietly on the mat, clearly shaken by an experience challenging everything he thought he knew about fighting. When he finally spoke, his words carried none of his earlier swagger. "Where the hell did you learn to do that?" Victoria's response was characteristically modest. "I've been training for a while." Her calm demeanor contrasted starkly with surrounding excitement and confusion. She helped Blackstone to his feet and thanked him for the training opportunity as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Marcus Rodriguez was first to recover from shock. The gym owner had seen thousands of fights during his career, but Victoria's technical execution and tactical awareness were at levels he rarely encountered even among elite professionals. Her ability to read Blackstone's attack, exploit his mistake, and execute perfect submission demonstrated mastery typically taking decades to develop. Word of the submission spread through Austin's MMA community within hours. Cell phone videos captured from multiple angles showed Victoria's flawless technique and Blackstone's shocked reaction. By evening, footage had reached social media platforms, generating intense speculation about the mysterious woman's identity and background. Victoria's training partners at Iron Wolf experienced complete perspective shifts. Fighters who'd viewed her as a dedicated amateur suddenly realized they'd been training with someone whose skills exceeded their own by significant margins. Her technique, conditioning, and tactical awareness all made sense in the context of championship-level abilities. Derek Blackstone's response to defeat was surprisingly gracious. After initial shock wore off, he sought out Victoria to ask about her training background and request additional sessions. The professional fighter who'd come to teach lessons ended up asking to learn from the woman he'd initially dismissed. Victoria's reaction to newfound notoriety was typically understated, continuing training on her regular schedule while accepting congratulations politely and deflecting background questions. In weeks following her submission of Derek Blackstone, Victoria Sterling's life underwent transformation she'd never anticipated. Cell phone videos of her 9-second victory had gone viral, generating millions of views and sparking intense speculation about her identity and background. The mystery woman who destroyed a professional fighter became an overnight internet sensation. Media attention was initially unwelcome, but ultimately unavoidable. Investigative reporters discovered her true identity within days, revealing that the woman who'd submitted Blackstone was actually Victoria Sterling, the tech billionaire whose business success had made her one of Austin's most prominent citizens. The revelation that a software entrepreneur had been secretly training as an elite fighter captured national attention. Victoria's decision to grant interviews was strategic rather than ego-driven. She used the platform to discuss domestic violence and the importance of self-defense training for women. Her story resonated with millions of women who'd experienced abuse and inspired many to begin their own martial arts training. She became an advocate for survivors while maintaining privacy about specific details. The fighting community's response was overwhelmingly positive. Professional fighters who'd initially questioned her legitimacy now acknowledged her skills and dedication. Promoters began reaching out about potential professional fights, though Victoria politely declined all offers. Her goal had never been professional competition, but personal empowerment and self-protection ability. Iron Wolf MMA experienced its own transformation following Victoria's viral moment. The gym became a destination for serious female fighters wanting to train where the mystery woman had developed her skills. Marcus Rodriguez hired additional female instructors and implemented programs specifically designed for women's self-defense and competition training. Victoria's training routine evolved to accommodate her new public profile. While continuing work with private instructors, she also became a mentor to younger female fighters at Iron Wolf. Her knowledge and technical expertise proved invaluable to women facing many challenges she'd overcome during her own development. At 38, Victoria Sterling had achieved something unprecedented, using wealth and privilege not to avoid challenges, but to prepare for them. Her 9-second submission represented decades of dedicated training culmination and skills triumph over stereotype. The fighter who'd hidden in plain sight was finally free to be herself.